I ought to start off by emphasising the fact that as a bloke who's 64 at the end of August, my interest in the future of radio is strictly, obviously, limited, I suppose, in a way, because I'm not going to be either here to enjoy it or disapprove of it. Whatever it is that you do in life, if you can get into a position where the management, whatever form that takes, thinks that you know something they don't know, whether it's true or not, again, doesn't matter very much, but it's a very good position to be in. So I think the fact that Radio 1 management, by and large, not even have the slightest interest in music, has certainly helped me to get away with a lot of strange stuff. But there are now people in the office where I work who come in and talk to me about records, people who bring me records, recommend stuff, and vice versa. And that certainly didn't happen in Gary Davis's day, that's for sure. Obviously, I was working for Radio 1. I don't feel obliged to defend it particularly, but I think one of the problems that we have, I mean, obviously the obvious ones are there are now so many different ways of listening to the radio and so many different stations that it's not altogether surprising that listeners are gradually leaching away. But I think part of the problem is the fact that so many Radio 1 presenters these days, and it'd be invidious of me to name names, but you can probably supply them yourselves, seem to take a lot of guidance from children's television presenters who've got to be sort of flat out all the time. Everything's got to be bright and sparkly and shouty, and an insane number. Whenever I switch on to Radio 1 during the daytime, I always seem to catch up on some enormously complicated competition which is of absolutely no interest at all except to the two people who are doing it. And they go on and on and on and on, and I think, why don't you just play a record, you know, and instead of having these damn stupid competitions when you win some utterly fruitless prize. And if I was running the station, which quite clearly I'm never going to do, but I'd get rid of, there'd be no competitions on there at all, as far as I, and they'd just play more music and stop shouting, really. I'd be very pleased to hear that. And I like Zane Grey, Zane, although he shouts probably more than anybody else, but he's very, very keen on his music, and I can forgive a man a lot for that, because, as I say, historically, it's been people by dickheads, basically, who had absolutely no interest in music at all and just saw it as a stepping stone to a career in crap TV as well. And most of them, fortunately, never made it. Isn't that rather gratifying, I think? Well, let me tell you how my life was transformed by listening to the radio years and years and years ago, because I think you have to retain the possibility of being delighted and surprised, and you can only get that, I think, if you have a wide range of musics all contained within one program. And obviously I would argue for that, in the same way that I would argue for living in a small village as we do, because that way you have to make common cause with people whose beliefs and attitudes may be very different to yours, and I think that's good for you. Whereas if you live in a large community and only associate with people who believe the same things as yourself, you become rather narrow-minded and ultimately bigoted, I think. But there used to be a program, the only place where you could hear any kind of music, popular music at all, was a program called Two-Way Family Favourites, which was on the old Light program on a Sunday afternoon, and it linked people in this country with their children or whatever who were serving with the forces in Germany, and they had a presenter in Germany and one in London, and it was a bizarre program. It seemed to feature an awful lot of Glenn Miller music and a lot of orchestral stuff, and the Nuns' Chorus, from whatever it is that the Nuns' Chorus comes from, seemed to be on almost every week, and you'd have to sit, and it was quite good for you because you used to have to sit and listen to all this weird stuff, and occasionally you think, actually, I can see why other people would like that, and that's quite good for you, I always believe. But then one Sunday morning they said, we've had a request here from Lance Bombardier Higgins, BFBO 24, for his mum and dad in Shoreditch, whatever it was, and he wants us to play them the first release by the new American singing sensation Elvis Presley. And when that came on, this is not exaggeration, my life was never the same again. from that moment, it sounds, Heartbreak Hotel probably sounds to you like a joke record now, but nothing like it had ever happened before. And I think that is the great beauty of having very mixed radio, you know, where you just, I mean, what I dread with what you're discussing here is that you end up with things that are so narrowly formatted, probably with the best of intentions, that you're going to run the real risk of not leaving an opportunity there for people to be delighted, and that would be tragic, I think. Well, as I hinted at the beginning, I'm rather pleased that I probably won't be here to listen to any of this stuff when it actually happens. But I think we've seen enough over the last 6 or 7 years that if there's any danger of any of these access stations or resonance or anybody else actually threatening the economies of the major broadcasters, there'd be tightening of legislation, I think, or there'd be some bold new initiative that saw the buggers either being sold off themselves or some legislation would be enacted to take them off the radio. I think historically this is the way things, you know, I speak as a man who 2 elections ago was delirious with joy at a Labour victory, and in the last 6 years I feel so utterly betrayed by the, well, the latest thing today, I was reading a piece in the paper about the way there's going to be a religious office in Whitehall. It's going to be looking at ways of introducing Christianity into our lives through politics. And you just think, I'm really grateful, you know, I think well, maybe if I've got another 10 years of life, that'll be enough, because I really don't want to be around for all of that kind of shit.